I've always wondered where evil comes from. I looked for the origin of all cruelty in legends, in movies, in something that was far from my reality. But what happens when the evil is so deep, so ancient, that the very earth recognizes it and refuses to bury it? Forget the zombies from Hollywood. What I'm about to tell you is about a man so wicked that death itself wasn't enough to take him. This legend, which I swear is real, is a terrifying portrait of human malice. It plunged me into an investigation about the motivations for so much cruelty and made me question what hides in the shadows of my own town. Because for every bizarre case we uncover, there are 1,000 more, even worse, that never make it to the news. If you have the guts to look at what humanity tries to hide, go ahead and hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my investigations into the shadows of the human mind. The legend said the dry corpse was a monster, a creature. But I knew him as a man named João da Mata. His name alone was a synonym for perversity in my village. I don't remember a time when evil wasn't a part of him. It wasn't an explosive violence, but a cold cruelty, shown in small acts that, when added up, created a picture of pure horror. João da Mata's evil seemed to have no limits. I myself heard the screams of agony and the pleas of his parents, whom he tortured by denying them food and water. The revulsion we felt for him was physical. He took pleasure in the suffering of others. I saw when he burned my neighbor's crops and waited for him, scythe in hand, as they tried to save what was left. I saw the animals he tortured for fun, the throats of pigs and sheep he would slit, leaving them to writhe in pools of blood. And I saw when he poisoned the wells with a lethal venom that made the victims writhe, screaming, as their skin turned purple and swelled. His presence was like a silent plague, drying up the joy and hope of anyone who dared to cross his path. Over time, the community's disdain turned into pure hatred. No one spoke to him anymore. It was as if he were already dead, a ghost wandering among us. But the loneliness didn't consume him. On the contrary, it made his evil even more dangerous. A dark hole in his chest, a well of darkness that seemed to suck the life out of everything around him. It's believed that over time, the land around his house became barren. The trees dried up, the flowers withered. It was as if the soil, in an organic reaction to the malice that trod upon it, was refusing to give life to anything. The elders said that João da Mata's soul was rotten even before his body. And that's how the curse was born. Not from a spell or a pact, but from the pure contempt that we and nature itself felt for him. The earth doesn't forget hatred. On the contrary, it absorbs it, digests it, and as I saw, it gave it back in a terrible way. João da Mata's death, strangely, was not a relief for me. There was no celebration, just a heavy silence over the village. The community and I, accustomed to the evil he exuded, feared that his curse would not end with his last breath. And we were right. We prepared the coffin. It was simple wood, but it felt as heavy as an anchor. 4 strong men took turns carrying it, sweating and trembling as if hell itself was resisting the burial. We took him to the cemetery, but with every step, the weight increased. The ground, which was already dry and cracked, seemed harder, more unyielding. It was as if the earth, the same one he had abused in life, was refusing to take him back. The gravedigger, a tough old man named Zeca, dug the deepest grave he had ever made. For the first time in years of work, he felt the soil resist each shovel, hard as stone, as if the very roots of the trees were intertwined, protecting the subsoil from that body. The coffin was finally lowered with difficulty. The men let go of the ropes, relieved, and the earth began to be thrown over it. But the relief didn't last. The next morning I was the first to see it. The soil of the grave was untouched, not a single grain of dirt out of place, and the heavy closed coffin was there, on top of the grave, as if the tomb had vomited the body back with fury. The scene was repeated for days on end. No matter the depth of the grave or the number of men, the next morning the coffin was always there in the same spot, defying everyone. His death did not mean rest. That's when the terror became physical. Tired of trying, the villagers decided to leave the coffin in the middle of the cemetery. On the 3rd day, when we went to check, the horror paralyzed me. The wood of the coffin had been crushed from the inside, and João da Mata's body, once bloated and grey, was now unrecognizable. The skin, once soft, was completely dry, stuck to the bones. The body, without a drop of fat, seemed to have been drained of all moisture. The empty eyes stared at the horizon, as if searching for something. The coffin was empty, and the dry corpse had risen. The dry corpse was not a movie monster that shambled aimlessly. He was a creature of hatred, and his first mission was revenge. His first victim was the river. I was there, and saw the dry, skeletal figure approach the water and stand still. Slowly the river began to shrink in volume. It was as if João da Mata's thirst was so great that he wasn't just drinking, but draining the life out of the river itself, turning it into a bed of cracked mud and dead fish decomposing under the sun. Wherever the dry corpse passed, life drained away. He didn't need to touch. His presence was a plague. The crops he passed near withered in seconds. The trees became dry bones, leafless. It was as if the earth, which had once refused to accept him, was now being punished by its own creation. The dry corpse wandered, leaving a trail of death and desolation. We united to stop him, armed with scythes, axes, and whatever else we could find. The farmer Pedro, a brave man, was the first to approach, brandishing his axe. He aimed for the head, but the blade simply ricocheted off the dry corpse's dried bones, sparking. The creature, eyeless, turned slowly, and with a dry blow from its skeletal arm, pierced Pedro's chest. The farmer fell, choking on his own blood, his lungs crushed by the force of the impact. His bones cracked, and the dry corpse stood there, still, watching the life drain away. Others tried. Joaquim, the blacksmith, threw his sledgehammer. The dry corpse dodged with a terrifying slowness, and before Joaquim could react, the dry, bony hand grabbed his neck. There was no scream, only the choked sound of Joaquim's throat being crushed, his skin turning purple as he fought for air. When the dry corpse let go, the body fell lifeless, with its neck twisted at an unnatural angle. The fight turned into a massacre. No weapon seemed to work. The scythes only scratched his bones. The axes bounced off. The creature didn't attack with fury, but with a cold, almost methodical indifference. Every blow was fatal. Every touch brought death. He wasn't looking to fight, just to remove obstacles. Maria, the midwife who tried to run away, felt the air thin when the dry corpse simply sucked the moisture from her body with a chilling touch. She screamed, her skin shriveling and drying in seconds, falling to the ground like an empty husk. Panic spread like wildfire. Those who remained fled, leaving the bodies behind, a trail of despair and blood. It was then that the town's priest, an older, experienced man, remembered an ancient legend. The only way to stop a creature that had been rejected by nature was to surrender it to a higher authority. That is, to bury the body upside down, so that the grave was inverted in sacred ground. Thus, the soul could not ascend to heaven, and the body would be punished for all eternity. Still in shock, and with the town mourning the dead, the survivors had to muster what courage was left. We hit the skeletal body of the dry corpse, which seemed lighter than air because it was so dry, and like bait, we led him toward the church. Within that space, the creature finally seemed to accept its final destiny, powerless, immobile, as a putrid body should be. The town, in shock, dug the grave next to the chapel. The earth, now soft and welcoming, seemed to accept the new task. We placed the body upside down, and the earth covered it quickly, as if in a hurry to hide it. The terror didn't end there, but it became part of the town's history. The legend of the dry corpse now had a name and a face, that of a monster that the earth gave birth to in order to punish humanity. The legend of the dry corpse is more than a horror story. It's a warning, a grim tale about the punishment that nature itself can deliver when human malice crosses all limits. Whether the legend is real or not, we'll never know. But it serves to remind us that cruelty has a price, that the earth, the sky, and the universe react to the evil we spread. The story of João da Mata seems otherworldly. But what if we stop to think about what leads a human being to commit such extreme acts of malice that the earth itself rejects him? What is this evil he carried? A disease? A curse? Or just the essence of a being who chose the path of evil? And what if that curse didn't die with him? What happens when the uncertainty that one day, every 100 years, another dry corpse could rise in this putrid world becomes the purest truth? Tell us in the comments, what's the most bizarre and terrible story about a person from your town that you've ever heard? We love discovering these cases, and if you had the courage to make it to the end of this story, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next investigation. May God bless us and not allow us to become part of the story.